iFanboy's coverage of the New York Comic Con is brought to you by Seagate, the storage of choice for creative professionals. I'm here with Lee Zlotoff. How you doing?
I'm good.
Excellent. So for those who might not know, you are the creator of MacGyver.
This is true.
I'm very excited to be talking to you because MacGyver is probably, at our offices, me and Conor, big fans of MacGyver. Love the show going back to when it was on originally. But we're here because the MacGyver comic is out now.
This is true.
Yep.
We're releasing our first issue here at New York Comic Con.
Yep.
And I'm very excited.
So now why, after such a long period since the show was on there and stuff like that, why come back, bring MacGyver back into comics?
Well, the truth is, you usually need to wait a generation to bring back a property like this anyway.
Sure.
And it's been just about 20 years since it was since the TV series ended. And we're bringing MacGyver back on a number of platforms. There's the comic book. There's the movie, we're working on a musical, we're building a new website, and there's actually the MacGyver Foundation, which is going to be a charitable foundation to go out, basically do good in the world in the name of MacGyver. Yeah. So it just so happened that sort of the first thing that came together was the comic book, and it's as good a place to start as any.
That's excellent. So now you are an acclaimed, television writer. You've got a large writing experience and movies and all stuff like that. What was the comic book writing experience like for you? You worked with Tony on the book. How did that process go?
Well, for me, it was really a learning experience. I mean, Tony Lee is an accomplished, graphic novelist and comic book writer. So I was really just sort of working with him to develop the story and make sure that the dialogue and the character were consistent with, the MacGyver character that I created at the beginning. But it was a fascinating experience because it has a lot of similarities in ways to sort of screenwriting or almost sort of directing for the screen, but it is slightly different, and so you really do have to kind of, for me anyway, it was an interesting learning curve to sort of translate what I knew from film and television and to put it into sort of comic book form. And to be true, to be honest, if people really like this, the credit goes to Tony Lee, and if they hate it, it's my fault. So
we enjoyed it a lot. And what I thought was interesting was that there was you didn't kind of retell an origin or try to it just like, boom, here we go, here's MacGyver, and we're off to the races.
Well, because in the feature film we're planning on doing what is essentially a contemporary origin or creation story, we thought with the comic book we just sort of pick him up. It is set present day. He is a little younger than I think Richard Dean Anderson was in the series, but it was kind of like, let's just kind of hook back in to who the audience knew MacGyver to be. And in other situations, either later comic book series down the line, but certainly with the movie, that's where we can kind of get into more of the backstory of the creation history. So,
sure, yeah. So obviously, you think MacGyver still has relevance in this day and age. What is it about that character that has resonated so much? I mean, it's somebody that I love the TV show. We ate up the comic book. I think other people will. What do you think you touched on with that?
Curiously enough, so I think he actually has more relevance now than he did, and that may be partly why it's just sort of expanded and become this sort of global meme. But I think there's sort of three key aspects of MacGyver. One is, all of which, by the way, I think are tools for managing the 21st century. Okay. And one is, he didn't pick up a gun, so it's like, avoid blowing things up or killing people if you possibly can, because conflict usually isn't going to really resolve anything. It's just going to lead to further conflict. The second thing is, instead of sitting and whining about what you want, what is it that you've got, and how can you turn what you've got into what you need, okay? Which is really what we're going to all be facing in this century in terms of global resources. There's 7.5 billion people on the planet, and there's only so much arable land, and there's only so much fresh water, and we're going to have to figure out how to make this work as a global civilization. And the third thing I think that made MacGyver so accessible and attractive was that the more difficult the situation, the more he approached it with a sense of humor and humility. I mean, James Bond was really kind of smug and had all those great toys that Q would give him at the beginning of every story. And MacGyver had nothing. And he approached this with, yeah, maybe I got nothing, but if I think about this and I look around, maybe I can turn nothing into something. Yep. And I think that attitude is really, really attractive to people. And by the way, if you're in a developing nation, it's especially attractive because you just can't walk down the street and buy whatever you need. You got to figure out a way to make it happen. So,
and I find it fascinating. Like, for instance, a friend of mine the other day, her gear shifter on her car broke, and she pulled out her Swiss Army knife and posted on Twitter, said, "I'm going to MacGyver it." Like, it's a verb now. I mean, like that.
It is in virtually every major dictionary around the world, including the Oxford English Dictionary, as both a noun and a verb. That is to say, to MacGyver something, and when you've done it, I've done a MacGyver. You know, so it's like Kleenex, it's like Jell-O. It's sort of become this term of, hey, if I got to find a way to do this on my own, it's a MacGyver, and it's like that's great. That's exactly what it should be. That's the kind of thinking we're going to need on a global scale. But if it gets you out of a jam with your car, so much the better.
Right, excellent. So you mentioned you got a lot of things in the works. Assuming this comic series goes well, can we see more comics? Or?
Well, obviously, if this goes well, we'll probably do more MacGyver comics. Yeah. But hopefully by the end of the show, Image and I are going to announce a non-MacGyver comic book series that I'm going to be doing with them. So we're just putting the final touches on that project right now. But as I say, hopefully by the end of the show, we'll have all the pieces in place and we'll tell everybody what that is. And needless to say, there are a number of other projects, both TV and film, that I'm involved in. And we're now in the process of actually trying to assign a director for the MacGyver feature film. So with any luck, hopefully in the next 6 to 8 months, that'll be in production. But that's the movie business, so you never know.
Yeah, exactly. So you must have had, I mean, like with so many comic book publishers out there, you must have a ton of choices. How has working with Image been, and has it been a good relationship? Or?
Well, Image is really great in the sense that, they're very light from an editorial standpoint. Because in the case of MacGyver, the rights were mine. And if I went to another comic book company, they'd say, well, we want the rights. I say, well, that's just not going to happen. That's not possible. And Image is set up in such a way that it's like, no, you deliver the content, okay, and we'll put it out there, and the rights will remain yours. And so I didn't want another company telling me how to portray MacGyver. It both wasn't appropriate and it didn't make sense. So Image was really the perfect place to do it because they went, we'll do what you want us to do. Tell us how you want this to work, and so we did.
Yep, and so this is that creator vision. That's excellent. Well, good. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Like I said, we're waiting for every issue, and can't wait to see more. I think the world is a better place with MacGyver in it. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and stay tuned for all the MacGyver stuff that's coming your way, because it's coming your way.
And
He's back.
And the website is, or will be?
So it's not completely finished yet, but it will be MacGyverglobal.com.
Okay, excellent. So
thanks.
Check it out. Josh, I'm on this really weird Wi-Fi signal. It's got all these really strange German industrial movies. They're all streaming right to it.
That's my Seagate GoFlex satellite.
Oh, it's you.
You can keep up to 500 gigabytes of movies, music, anything you want on here, and stream it to your device with its own Wi-Fi signal.
You just get the free Seagate GoFlex satellite app, and you can stream all your content to your iPad, to your Android devices, whatever you want, so you can get your German industrial movie fix.
Industrial, that's what we'll call it. I gotta remember to lock this thing.
Yeah. So it streams Wi-Fi, it's got a great battery, lasts a long time, great for road trips, right?
It's a really cool little device, and you can pretty much put anything on it, and you'll have more stuff on it than you'll ever have time to watch. It's good for kids, good for all that stuff.
Plane rides.
All of these things. And you can, if you are an iFanboy viewer, you can get 10% off. Where can they do that?
They can go to Seagate.com/iFanboy and sign up there and get 10% off buying the Seagate GoFlex hard drive. And we thank them for their support of iFanboy at New York Comic Con.
It's really mostly just kids' movies.
I know. I try to make it cooler.
I know, I'm not edgy.
No.
Sorry.